Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Gideon Stuff Adventures. I am really freaking excited for this one because we are going to one of my favorite places ever. I'm out here in Socorro County, New Mexico. Set some context. Over there we move right finger, there we go. Those are the Sierra Ladrones. Out this way, this right here is Polvadera Peak. And then another way, Gideon. Out here are the San Mateo Mountains. We are going to San Lorenzo Canyon. And holy cow, look at this chunk of agate I just found right here on the ground. Today is July 4th, so I'm kind of nervous that we're not going to be alone out here at San Lorenzo Canyon. It's probably going to be pretty crowded, but you know, it might not be. We have had some rains recently, so the road's a little bit wet and muddy. Maybe some people are going to opt to not go to the canyon while it's wet and muddy. But I've been wanting to show this off in a video for a long time. I'm probably going to throw in a lot of footage from all kinds of different trips I've taken out here, because I come out here quite often and I do have a lot of footage that I can use. But today we're going to do some hiking. I'm going to talk about the geology out here, because there's some really neat stuff out here. Socorro County in general is really awesome. I'm also going to try and make a video today about the Quebradas backcountry, so keep an eye out for that video as well. And here's just a better look at the little chunk of agate that I picked up. Nothing incredible, but it's kind of cool. All right, the road coming in is not too bad. It's a little bit soggy. It's kind of washed out in a couple places, but nothing that we can't handle. We actually are not in the canyon yet. It's more this way, but that's because we've already come to one of the coolest geologic features in this area. Unconformity Butte. Isn't she a beaut? Ha, that was really funny. I hope you laughed. This little butte right here is so freaking cool. As a geology nerd, I freaking love it. I hope I can share some of that with you guys. I hope you appreciate how awesome this is. But number one, unconformities are just badass, especially angular unconformities, which is what this is. And we'll talk about that here in a second. The other thing I love about this butte is that it has appeared in several textbooks, including some that I was using during my studies. This is a world-class example of an angular unconformity, and it's just, it's beautiful. Alrighty, so as we approach the butte, we can start seeing this unconformity. What is the thing that stands out to you the most about this butte, the most striking feature right off the bat? Well, I think a lot of people would say the fact that these rock units, you can see kind of a little zigzag there, but they're like tilted, right? And the thing that's sitting on top isn't. Well, that right there is the unconformity. All right, as we get closer to the butte, we can really see how striking this geology is. A lot of what we're going to be talking about today has to do with this lower rock unit. This lower rock unit is the Psuedotachylite formation that was deposited about 10 million years ago. The stuff on top is the Sierra Ladrones formation, which was deposited about 125,000 years ago. So, let's talk about unconformities. So, I climbed to the top of the butte to sit down and record, and I realized that was an exceedingly stupid idea because of the wind. You guys wouldn't be able to hear a word I said, so we're going to sit here in kind of this little rock shelter on this ledge where hopefully the wind is a little more manageable, and we're going to talk some geology. In order to understand unconformities, we first have to understand two of the most basic principles of geology: the law of superposition and the law of original horizontality. Superposition is exactly what it sounds like. It is the best position for... The law of superposition states that younger rock units stack on top of older rock units. And this is pretty intuitive, right? No matter how you're depositing rocks, whether it's a volcanic lahar flow, whether it's a river dumping sediments at a delta, you're going to dump younger stuff on top of older stuff. The first stuff that gets deposited is going to sit at the bottom, and then everything that's deposited since then is going to stack on top of it. So layer 1 is going to be your oldest layer, 2 is going to be younger than that, 3 is going to be younger than 2, and 4 is going to be the youngest of all of them. Original horizontality states that all rock units are deposited horizontally originally. Now, as you can see behind me here, they don't always stay that way. If we lived on a static planet, all rock layers would stack up with the oldest on the bottom, the youngest at the top, and they'd all be perfectly horizontal. But we don't live in a static world. We live in a very dynamic world with things like erosion and tectonics. And unconformity occurs when a layer of rock is missing from the rock record. And this can be because it was eroded away or because it was never deposited. A lot of times it's because it eroded away though. The most famous unconformity is the Great Unconformity. Everyone's heard about this one. We're missing up to 1 billion years of Earth's history all over the world. Basically, we see Cambrian rocks sitting on top of crystalline basement rocks from the Proterozoic. Now, we can actually see a great example of a conformable unit contact right here within the Psuedotachylite formation. It's the same unit, but we can see a contact between 2 different types of lithologies with no gap in between. If we look over here, this is the lower Psuedotachylite formation. The Psuedotachylite is split into 3 different segments, the upper, middle, and lower Psuedotachylite. I've actually done geologic mapping out here myself, and actually when I made a map out here, I only split the Psuedotachylite into 2 facies. A facies is basically just units within the same formation that exhibit slightly different lithologies that are, fairly easy to tell apart. So I split it into 2 facies, a conglomerate-dominated facies and a sandstone-dominated facies. We're not going to get into that too much, but right here we can see the conglomerate-dominated facies. This is a sandstone, but it has a bunch of big pebbles and cobbles in it. This is a conglomerate. And then over here, we can see the sandstone-dominated facies, where it's sandstone and we don't see as many of the cobbles. And we can actually see that contact right here, this transition. So this conglomerate, whoa, almost fell down the mountain. This conglomerate was deposited first, and then the sandstone was deposited on top of it. And we can kind of see that transition right here. We go from the conglomerate and then it grades. We see here we're getting a little more sandy and it grades into the sandstone. That right there is a conformable contact. There's no time missing between these 2 rocks. Again, the Psuedotachylite formation is Miocene in age, about 10 million years old. I gotta go put my hiking shoes on. I still got my driving shoes on and I'm about to go for a ride. It's about 10 million years old. The oldest rocks we're going to see today are going to be Oligocene. Think about 40 million years old, and those are going to be some volcanic rocks. So 10 million years ago, the Psuedotachylite formation was deposited in a river basin. And when it was deposited, again, remember our law of original horizontality, these beds would have been horizontal. So it would have been, like that. Well then, about 5 million years ago, this unit was deformed and tilted. You see here, we got some pretty crazy faulting and folding going on in here. This is a tectonically active area. We are in the Rio Grande Rift. Yay, Rio Grande Rift got name dropped. I'm going to be dropping its name a lot today. But anyways, this unit was tilted very strongly to the east, dipping down towards the river basin. And after that happened, the top of it got eroded off. So we have these rocks that got tilted, and then the top was eroded flat by future rivers and streams. And then during the Ice Age, about 125,000 years ago, this big layer of sandstone on top, the Sierra Ladrones Formation, was deposited by streams draining out of the higher mountains. What we see here at Unconformity Butte is an angular unconformity, where the lower beds have been tilted and the tops eroded before a new unit is deposited on top of them. There's a couple different types of unconformities. A disconformity is where you're just missing rock strata between some layers, either because of non-deposition or erosion. Nonconformity is where you have a disconformity between 2 different kinds of rocks, so like where sedimentary rocks are sitting on top of igneous rocks, like the Great Unconformity is going to be a nonconformity because we have sedimentary Paleozoic rocks sitting on top of crystalline basement rocks. And then we've also got things like paraconformities and things like that, but we're not going to go too far into that. This is an angular unconformity, and they are the most striking and honestly some of the coolest unconformities. And this little butte right here, this just scratches all of my nerd itches so much. I freaking love this thing. All right, but enough of that. You guys want to see San Lorenzo Canyon, don't you? I do too. So let's go ahead and get into the canyon. Here we come into the canyon. I'm really hoping one of my favorite spots is open. It might be, it might not be. There's actually not as many people here as I was afraid there would be. So that could bode well for us. So there's going to be a couple of things that we're going to talk about a lot today, and that's primarily going to be faulting and, well, actually mostly just faulting. We already talked about unconformity, so the rest of the day is probably going to be almost exclusively about faulting, of which there is a ton of in this area. This San Lorenzo Canyon is kind of unknown to a lot of people. A lot of locals, of course, know the area, and people come out here and do picnics and stuff all the time, which is why I was afraid for 4th of July it was going to be pretty crowded. But I love it out here. I absolutely love it out here. I've been out here a lot. Like I said, I've got footage from other adventures and stuff that I'm probably going to throw into this video, but I've also filmed some other videos for the channel out here. I've done a bunch of review cutting a couple years ago. Yeah, almost 2 years ago now, I filmed a video out here about gear that I find helpful to have with you when you're hiking and camping. That'll help keep you comfortable and alive. I filmed that out here, in fact, in the area that we're going right now. And this is so gorgeous. We're going to stop making you guys look at my ugly face and look at the canyon. This is my favorite little place to come and camp, back in this little canyon here. And there is a trail that I like to hike to. A lot of people call it the Loop Canyon Trail. I don't think it has like an official name, but that's what most people call it. So I guess that'll suffice. Oh man. And it never gets old. I'm telling you guys, it never gets old. I always like to walk back in here and make sure no one else is parked here before I pull my truck in, because, you know, that can get a little bit awkward. And actually, it doesn't look like anyone else is out here. A little bit wet. Yeah, okay. I guess we will bring the truck in, and then we're going to hike through there. Or actually, I guess we don't even really have to bring the truck in here, do we? We could just start walking. You know what? That's what we're going to do. We're just going to walk. You know, I recently came into the possession of a GoPro, but I don't have it with me right now because I'm an idiot. That would be really, really helpful, right? But nope, Gideon's just going to keep being dumb. A lot of times when I've camped in here, I've slept under this little eave on that ledge back there. And one time I was out here, and my friend Janelle, that you guys have met on the channel before, she's sleeping in my truck. was parked right here. I like sleeping on the ground. She doesn't. And there were kangaroo rats and mice jumping off of these ledges onto the truck. And she had the windows down there, like trying to get in. It was pretty funny. It was really, really funny. See, the handy thing about having a GoPro is that I won't have to put my phone down to use my hands all the time. But, you know, is what it is. And I am still wearing my driving shoes and not my hiking shoes. Yeah, we'll be fine. If it gets too slippery, I'll just take those buggers off. A little bit wet in here. I've been in here a couple of times where it's been running. It's pretty awesome. It never gets old, guys. I'm telling you, it never gets old. I could probably live in this canyon and not get tired of it. See it every single day and not get tired of it. Ooh, that parkour almost didn't work because, yeah, these shoes suck. So this right here, this is all Popatosa Formation. This basin fill that accumulated about 10 million years ago. Right here, actually, you can see a fault. I think we'll talk about the faults more later, but basically this is closed basin sediment from before the integration or the integration of the Rio Grande River. If you guys saw my Rincon Valley Slot Canyon video, I talked about this a lot more there. I'm not going to rehash it too much today, but basically the ancestral Rio Grande was a bunch of individual self-draining basins within the Rio Grande Rift, and it wasn't until about 5 million years ago or so that all these basins kind of burst their natural barriers, and the Rio Grande River connected all of them and became an integrated system. So this is stuff that collected in the Socorro Basin before the Rio Grande connected everything. So this stuff here, this is going to be eroded off of high mountains to the west. And we can actually see here a lot of the clasts in the rock is volcanic rock, and these are from caldera eruptions from the Magdalena Mountains that date back to the Oligocene. Let's go ahead and crawl into this little hole here. A la verga, people. Let's a good look at that fault. I guess this is my water bottle now. In the pocket it goes. Oh, and right here we can see a good fault surface. There's another spot in here where I want to talk about this, and maybe we will save it for then. But this is basically a fault scarp. You can see right here where there was the rocks sliding against each other. Normal fault. Very cool. We won't talk about that too much. I want to go to the one I was thinking about, just because got to stick to some kind of schedule. these shoes suck so much. But we're not going to trade them. I only really have to do one more thing of climbing, and it's right here. And it's not going to be difficult. Actually, it might be. With slippery shoes in one hand, we can do it. Zero grip. All right, let's do another POV, you're watching Gideon climb shot. Whoops. Appropriate footwear, guys. Remember, appropriate footwear. Super important. Super important. Oh well, I guess it's a good thing I don't drive in frickin' chanclas. That's what I'd be wearing right now. Ooh, isn't that gorgeous, guys? The correct answer is yes. Hello, Mr. Lizard. I love this kind of ecosystem, kind of high desert, you know, where you're around 5,000 to 6,000 feet in elevation. You know, you've got your cacti, but you've also got a bunch of like scrub oak, juniper, cedar trees. Ugh, the air just smells amazing. Hey, you want to see something cool? I mean, all of it's cool. We came around this big rock and look, that's where we started, down in there. That's where the little campsite is. Gosh, just incredible. Then we're gonna go up to the top right here, take a little look over the valley, but there's more places I want to show you guys. We're not gonna waste a whole lot more time here, and I really do need to change my shoes before I take a little tumble and fucking die. That would be delightful, right? I'm sure some people somewhere would be delighted to hear that I filmed my death. I hope that you guys wouldn't be, though. Woo. Hello. As far as the wildlife goes out here, I have been lucky in that every time I've been here, save for once, I have seen the Bighorn Sheep, which is pretty awesome. Also seen javelina, deer, coyotes, of course snakes and lizards. There's another fault rock, Psuedotachylite. There, I dropped the big word that I was keeping a surprise. We'll talk about Psuedotachylite later at my other spot, because it's cool. I like Psuedotachylite. Hey, look at that. There's the Gideon Mobile. And there's the canyon. I hope you guys can tell from here, but the entire canyon is dipping like this. It's all tilted towards the east. Out there's the Quebradas. Again, keep an eye out for that video, which hopefully I'll have time to go and make today. Wow. Oh, I don't have the right shoes on, I complain, and then immediately walk out to a ledge. Damn. Yep, that's it. I slipped and took a digger because of these damn shoes, so goodbye. So much better. And this is just going back out to the same canyon, but you know what? Sometimes a different perspective can be just as beautiful. It's like seeing it for the first time again when you're seeing it from the back. I prefer it from the back, you know. Better view. I'm so sorry for your guys' sake that I think I'm funny. Oh, man. This wet dirt feels so good on my dogs. Ta-da! We have returned. Whee! Ah, and there she is, the Gideon Mobile. And there's that ledge I was standing on. Fun fact about my truck, its name is Crystal. That was a name given to it by one of my ex-girlfriends. And during a trip that me and some other students took to a conference in Denver, I made the mistake of telling everyone about how my girlfriend called my truck Crystal. And, well, now the name has stuck. And I guess my truck's name is just Crystal now, so I don't make the rules, but I gotta live by them. Just got her out of the shop, too. Damn, it's good to have her back. All right, I got some real shoes on, so we're going to continue our little adventure. Before we go any further, though, I kind of think I should take this time to talk about the, geologic context and setting of the area. The erosion of San Lorenzo Canyon is pretty damn recent. Whoops, I'm like I'm holding my phone, but also like pushing it. You know what? Let's do this. Let's do this. Nah, okay. We'll just have one hand. Anyways, the erosion formation of this canyon system is pretty recent. So again, what we saw on the top of Unconformity Butte with those Pleistocene gravels and sands, it's about 125,000 years old. Well, that's also what's on top of the Popotosa Formation out here on top of what we're about to drive through, something called the Narrows, and I'll show you guys that here in a second. And so because those gravels were deposited on top of all this stuff about 125,000 years ago, that means that the erosion of the canyon happened within that time frame. So pretty recent. Now again, the Popotosa Formation is basin fill from streams that were running out of higher mountains to the east, and some from to the west and some from the east, I guess, but collecting in this closed basin system. 5 million years ago, the Rio Grande River became fully integrated, and we changed the way that sediment was draining into these basins. It was now allowed to leave, get in the river, and get shuttled off to the Gulf of Mexico. But before then, all this stuff was just stacking up in this basin. And this basin, of course, was originally formed by the Rio Grande Rift. I know, guys, the Rio Grande Rift. We love it on this channel. Basically, it's an extensional basin. It's a rift valley. So North America is trying to rip apart right through the middle of New Mexico. And what you get with extensional basins is a whole lot of faulting. Now, the Rio Grande Rift system as a whole is kind of most of the time I just call it a Horst-and-Graben system. It's really not. It's a half-graben system, but in kind of a weird way, where all the major basins are half-grabens, which means they're kind of like you'll have a fault on one side, and the other side will just kind of be like this big kind of like dish into it a little bit. But throughout the Rio Grande Rift, these basins alternate. Sometimes the fault will be on the east side, sometimes it'll be on the west side. But you have a bunch of normal faulting. And then, of course, in some of the smaller basins, you have normal faulting that's going both east and west in different progressive waves. What we see here in San Lorenzo Canyon is a buttload of faulting, just an absolute buttload of faulting. The most important faults are going to be out towards the western end of the canyon. We'll go and take a look at them. There's two main faults. The Lemitar fault, which is to the south, and the Silver Creek fault to the north, I believe. I think so. These are both large normal faults, but they kind of run towards each other, but they don't quite connect. And so what you get between them is what we call a relay ramp. And this is basically a place where the surrounding sediment has kind of been deformed and a little bit, kind of bent and twisted in order to accommodate that stress from these two faults. There's also an anticline here that passes through the Narrows. I'll try and point that out, but when I was on the top of the cliffs, I was showing you guys that everything is dipping towards the east. We're going to pass that anticline and things are going to start dipping towards the west. An anticline is a bend in the rock where it's kind of shaped like a rainbow. So once we pass that, things will be going the other way. I'll point out some of the minor faults that we see as we go through. And what else was I going to say? Actually, I don't know if I need to say much more. There's a lot of really, really neat structural geology in this area, but a lot of it is kind of complex and not something that I want to have to try to funnel my way through right now. Interestingly enough, this area is still being uplifted. It's rising at about 3/4 of an inch every 10 years, which doesn't sound all that impressive. But the reason that it's actually being uplifted is because of the Socorro magma body, which is this huge magma chamber that's about 12 miles underneath Socorro that's kind of inflating and pushing everything up. It's actually the largest magma chamber that we know of in the United States, or maybe, I think in the United States right now. I might correct myself later, but yeah. Anyways, let's go look at some rocks. This right here is the Narrows. We're gonna stop for a second. I'll make this quick. All right, so this right here is the Narrows. There's a little hoodoo, which is pretty cool. These cliffs are about 180 feet tall, which is awesome. We can see right there is a big fault. But what we can also see right here, more importantly, is the anticline. We've passed over this anticline. You can see now that these layers are dipping that way towards the west. So remember, back there, going like that. Over here, going like that. Actually, right here, we can see the hinge of the anticline pretty much perfectly. So we've got a little fault going through right here, but we can actually see, look at that. I think it's a little wavy, but then we can see it goes down again. Huh, very cool. Let's actually take a little bit of a closer look. So again, we can see that the bedding is dipping like this. And then right here, we see something start to change. Up here it gets like not quite level, but kind of level. You can see a little bit of waviness up there. Bam, bam, got some faulting. And then it curves over and we're dipping the other direction. And over here, across the valley, we've got a fault right here. Whack. Goes up that way. See the bedding. Right here is pretty much horizontal. But yeah, I think we can actually see that trending to being more westward dipping, especially as we get around the corner here. Gosh, I love geology. Yeah, actually right here we can see this anticline hinge perfectly. The hinge is about right here, but look. Look at that. Oh, it's beautiful. Brings a tear to my eye. I'm gonna take a detour real quick. Remember the thing I was telling you that I wanted to show you guys with the Psuedotachylite? We're finally gonna go to my little Psuedotachylite spot. I don't even think this is the best Psuedotachylite spot out here, but I like it, so this is what I'm coming to. Okay, we can also really see how the dip direction has changed out here. See that little almost hoodoo out there? See how it's all dipping this way towards the west? Yep, because we're on the west side of this anticline now. This little spot with this pseudotachylite is, I like it because I found it the first time I was out here at San Lorenzo Canyon with some friends, and so it's just my favorite spot now, I guess. And also back then I was just obsessed with pseudotachylite. Pseudotachylite's really cool, as I'll explain here in just a little bit. Ha ha ha, giving you some pseudo teasing before I get to the damn point. Aha, there it is. Oh yeah, wearing real shoes makes all the difference. Yeah, and this actually is a great spot. Oh, this is a great spot. Okay. Can you see how shiny? You can see the reflection of my phone in that. Isn't that wild? So you can see it all up through here. This really shiny, like slick stuff. So this is pseudotachylite, and it's associated with faults. And in fact, that's what we're standing on right now, is a fault. So this block right here is being dropped down. This block is being pushed up. This is our hanging wall. This is our foot wall. Do I want to talk about fault terminology? I should, but not right now. We'll do it here in a second. Pseudotachylite is formed when these rocks rub against each other. Basically, the friction melts the surface of one of the rocks, and then it cools and recrystallizes as a glass. Tachylite is a kind of volcanic glass, and so pseudotachylite is fake tachylite. It's a glass, but it's not a volcanic glass. It's a fault glass. It's a friction glass, which is just freaking amazing. It is so smooth. Like, this is just ridiculously smooth. Oh, I love it. I absolutely freaking love it. I hope this was worth the build up, because I'm freaking stoked about this. I hope you guys are too. Like, this is some of the prettiest pseudotachylite I have ever seen. Like, the fact that it's reflective enough, like it's so smooth I can see my reflection in it. That blows my mind. That's absolutely freaking wild to me. All right, so let's talk a little bit about faults. Faults are a type of deformation that we call brittle deformation. Faults happen on the crust of the earth where it's cold, right? So the earth is made up of several different layers, and you can sort these layers based on composition or by their mechanical properties. We're going to talk about mechanical properties right now. You have the crust, the mantle, and the core, inner and outer core. Our mantle is made up of very, very hot rocks. They're not liquid. They're what we call ductile. So have you ever seen someone like pulling taffy? That's what these rocks are like. They're a solid, but they're kind of a maneuverable solid. So when you see rocks that are like strongly folded and bent, a lot of that deformation will happen at depth where the rocks are hot. We call the transition between ductile deformation and brittle deformation the brittle ductile transition zone. But when rocks get hot enough, you can deform them ductily. That means you can kind of bend them. They'll kind of, get squished. And that's because they're hot. At the surface, on the crust, rocks are cold. They're hard. You can't bend something that is hard and solid like this. Instead, it breaks, and we call that brittle deformation. So when you put rocks under pressure, whether it's compressional or extensional, something has to give. If they're hot and ductile, they can get stretched or they can get squished. But on the surface where they're brittle, they break and they crack. So in a place like the Rio Grande Rift, where we're extending the crust, well, we're pulling from two different directions, and so the crust is going to start to fault. And that's where we get our normal faults. Now, back there, I use the terms footwall and hanging wall. These are old mining terms. And so this comes from, if you drill a hole into the ground, the footwall is what you're walking on, and the hanging wall is what you'd hang your lantern on to see. So when we're talking about faults, the hanging wall is the wall that you can think of as the roof of the fault, and the footwall is the floor of the fault. And so in a normal fault, what happens is along the fracture, along the fault, the hanging wall gets dropped down and the footwall gets pushed up. And I'll throw some diagrams on the screen when I edit this. But the other thing that you can think of with hanging and footwall is, if you look at a diagram of a fault, the footwall looks kind of like a foot, a very lazy, like child drawn foot, but it kind of looks like a foot. With a reverse fault, the hanging wall gets pushed up and the footwall gets pushed down, in the reverse of a normal fault. And then with transform faults, it's a little bit different. We're not going to talk about that right now. Although, actually, interestingly enough, there are some transform faults out here. In fact, there's a really big transform fault just that way from me. And transform faults really exist to help distribute and disperse stress. Of course, you can stress the crust as much as you want, but sometimes you hit something that just isn't going to be stressed. And so you'll have maybe a weaker area that might be parallel or perpendicular to your stress direction that gives, and that'll be like a transform fault that runs perpendicular to your normal faults. And also the fact brittle deformation is why we get things like our beautiful pseudotachylite, because it's friction, like rubbing on each other, get this like hot. That was bad. I'm not going to do that again. But yeah, faults are awesome, and pseudotachylite fucking slaps. That little canyon down there is freaking awesome. I have some footage. I was there back in April. I've got some footage from that. I also have some footage of some bighorn sheep up here on these rocks. I will probably throw that into this video at some point, but we're not going to go down that canyon right now, unfortunately, as much as I would love to. We just ain't got time for it. Say something to him. They don't trust you no more. Damn. I want to see him do some rock aerobics. I mean, yeah, probably a little bit. Like right now.
Oh my god, he's looking at us.
Yeah, he's looking at us. They know we can't get them because they're up on the rocks.
Oh my goodness, I know that.
But they do wonder why the frick one of them is doing that. Like, what are those weird creatures down there? And why is one of them saying racial slurs at us? They're not talking to you, you're yelling at them. I don't know. Some people might say that. Here we come up to the end of the canyon, and I know I'm not public. Shut up. We're actually gonna pull over right here, and we're gonna walk in the rest of the way. And right here we can actually start seeing some of all volcanic rocks, and we're about to go walk up onto the relay ramp. All right, so we're going to start walking into some igneous rocks. We're going to see some basalts. I'm hoping to see this dacite that's out here, which I think is the oldest unit we're going to see today. I think it's about 28 million years old, or 30, or 29. I don't know, somewhere in that range. But I do want to point out that here in the Psuedotachylite Formation, we can see that a lot of the clasts are igneous rocks. There's a big chunk of basalt. We got some rhyolite bits in here. Looks like a little bit of dacite. There we go. There's some dacite, rhyolites, stuff like that. This is made out of pieces of these rocks we're going to see. These were all erupted from Mogollon volcanic processes from the Magdalena Mountains about 30 million years ago. And all of those rocks are being eroded by streams that were forming these conglomerate and gravel and sandstone beds. So, yeah, we're about to see the parents of these sedimentary rocks. And I'm hoping we might walk over to the relay. This is kind of the relay right here. Again, this is like a deformed area between the Lemitar and Silver Creek faults. I think it's Silver Creek. I don't have any service right now, so I can't look it up and check myself. I'm pretty sure it's a Silver Creek fault, if I remember right. But yeah, this is going to be kind of a transition between them. Cool little cave. And here we start seeing our igneous rocks. See all those little orange bits? It's an eating site. This is a basalt. Ooh, and look at that. It's faulted. There's some slicken lines and pseudotachylite in there. Bunch of it. And actually, let me see. Yeah, right here's a good spot to show this. I've been meaning to show one of these for a while. Whoa! There's no water in here. Geez, most of the time when I come here, this has got some water in it. It's a little wet, but there's no water. There's a puddle. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so if we look right here at this wall across from us, look through the camera, see if you guys can actually see what I'm seeing. Yeah, you can. See this X feature right there? There's actually some more, but this one right here you can actually see pretty well. See that X feature right there? That is conjugate shear, or conjugate faults. Basically, when you have as much faulting going on in an area as you have right here, things start to get a little bit unbalanced, a little bit unsteady. And so sometimes you have a fault that comes in the opposite direction as another fault that'll like kind of grow off the other fault to kind of help redistribute some of that stress. Right here, we got a big fault. Got our igneous rocks on this side, and we've got our seds kind of over here. We can see that transition right there very, very clearly. Let's go ahead and hop up over this little volcanic emplacement. Smells like cottonwoods. It's like tripping me out being here without any water. Okay, once again. Whoa. All right, once again, we'll do a you guys watching me climb because I gotta put the phone down. Can't climb with the phone. Oh man. Hello, children. Ta-da! Get it flipped around. We're gonna walk up the wash for a little ways because I've never actually been that far out this way. I've been to these cliffs and then really not much further than that. So right now what we're seeing is there's Popatosa Formation, and out here we have some of our basalts. Now there's I believe there's two different basalt flows out here. An older one and a younger one. And the younger one is actually I think the youngest volcanic unit out here. So I'm keeping my eyes open for our dacite. I think I saw a little chunk of it down there, but I want to see a bigger exposure. This is really freaking cool. So we're gonna keep our eyes open, see what we come across. Yeah. This right here is going to be as far as I normally come when I come out here. But today we're going to press on further. We're going to go deeper because this is a Gideon Stuff Adventures video, so we got to do us some adventuring. Ooh, a nice big fault right there. Let's go take a look at that. Again, hanging wall is going down, foot wall is coming up. And also, damn, I should have brought my Brunton with me. But I'd be willing to guess, in fact, I put money on it, that this fault right here is within about 5 degrees of 60 degrees of dip because of Anderson's theory. I'll make a video about that at some point. Yeah, that's beautiful. Hang your lantern on top of the fault scarp right there. And then actually we've also got some cataclastics here. These are like fault brushes. That's rocks that are like kind of pulverized and ground up by faults. Right, there's another something going on. Yeah, so now we are getting into very, very strongly volcanic dominated system. And I think technically right now I'm on the Sevietta Wildlife Refuge. Let's take a look at this sign. Boundary for the refugee. Yep. Woo! Huh. Look at all this this vein fill. It's like chalcedony, almost agate. Holy moly, that is gorgeous. Yeah, look at that. Damn. So right here, basalt. Still. Popatosa. We'll turn around when we find the dacite. How's that sound? Agreed? Good. Oh, I wish this was running right now. Now there is a spring up here somewhere. It's probably right here, actually. Right here in all these cottonwoods. Should probably look where I'm going, huh? That little cottonwood area back there is not the head of San Lorenzo Spring, I have decided. Huh. I'm wondering if that relay ramp is actually right out in here. Probably so. This big ridge up here looks like volcanic rocks to me. We shall see. Yeah, okay. We got something here, guys. Have this massive wall of igneous rock, and it looks like there's a fault going right here. There is. Right in there. That's a fault surface. This is our Popatosa Formation back in here, right? All looks familiar. And there's a fault. This is going to be about 30 million year old, again, maybe 28 to 30 million year old volcanic rocks. We have a normal fault here, pushing the footwall up, dropping the hanging wall. We're putting 10 million year old rocks right next to 30 million year old rocks when they should be sitting on top, right? And right here, oh, you can see the fault even better right here. Okay, I think this is probably the Lemitar fault. Yeah, so we've got some fault scarps, slicken lines. You can see all the way up through here. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, there's some good slicken lines right in there. Yeah, you can see this linear feature going all the way up. There's a big exposed surface of slicken lines. Ooh, up there at the top we got some. I think this is our day site, guys. I think this is our day site. Holy hell. I was saying I wish this was running, and I kind of am, like, I love water, but you would not want to be in here during a flash flood or something like that. Look at that big old cottonwood tree that got drugged down from somewhere. Yeah, the water, when it goes through here, it goes fast and hard. You can see how it's been eating out this rock. Yeah, and this little narrow area right here, whew, you would not want to be caught here in a rainstorm. Hey, there's some awa. Some cow tracks. I think now we're getting close to the spring. Ooh, what is that? Some kind of chunk of chalcedony. This is beautiful, guys. Yeah, guys, I'm going to go ahead and call it and say that that was the Lemitar fault that we just crossed over. Gorgeous. I said we'd turn around after we found the day site, which we did, but I lied. I'm sorry. Looks like now we actually might be seeing some rhyolites, maybe. Onward. I just can't stop. Every turn, I want to keep going. Hey, I see power lines. Got more faults right through here. Got some slicking lines. There's a vertebra. Cow. There's a rib. There's a leg bone. Woo! Oh. There's the spring. This is the head of San Lorenzo Spring, and it's 3-foot waterfall in all of its glory. I can smell a lot of cows back here. And we found our day site again, which is pretty dope. Pretty good little trickle coming out of here. It goes underground almost immediately, but pretty good little trickle. What do you think? Should we keep going, guys? I think so. Shall we do another one-handed scramble up this slick rock? Yeah, I'll put the phone in my pocket. Well, here we are on the other side of the waterfall. Let's see where the spring comes out at. Now, what's the difference between a spring and a creek? Springs come from underground, and creeks are basically runoff creeks and streams. Kind of the same thing. This stream looks like someone's fence. Kind of looks like it starts leaking up from right about under where I'm standing. And of course the arroyo runs up into the higher mountains. Hey, and I think I found a road. Oh, look. Another fault. And there's also one down there by the waterfall. Well, I think that's probably where I should call this adventure for now. Let's go ahead and head back to the truck. My wanderlust has been satiated, momentarily at least. Nah, get in, don't look, don't look. You'll give in to temptation. Let's head back. Whoa. Hey guys, wave to the trail cam. Maybe they'll wave back. So the first thing I did when I got up over the waterfall was I ran over here a little ways and took a leak. Maybe whoever has that trail cam is going to get a little more of a show than they bargained for. Oh well, they can enjoy that. Alright, so we're on our way back, but I did want to stop and talk about this rock real quick. I was going to talk about it on the way up, but I decided not to. So this right here looks like a conglomerate, right? Got big chunks of other rocks in it, and it kind of is. This is a volcanic unit, actually, and this looks to me like a little lahar flow. And so what this is this is like a big chunk of ash that was running downhill after an eruption. Big chunk of ash and mud that was gathering up other lithic pieces as it went. So that's what that is. So I'm back here at this one basalt, and I'm just like, I'm blown away by these like agatized veins in here. These are so pretty. And then over here we got some pretty cool little quartz filling in vesicles in the basalt. We call those amygdules. I hate that word. Oh my gosh, get in. Amygdules. Fuck.
Amygdala.
I can't say that word. I can't even speak English on a good day, so some words are just beyond my grasp. Amygdules. Amygdules. Something like that. here we are at the end of the road again. All right, this is probably going to be about the end of this adventure. And I don't think I'm going to make it to Quebradas today, unfortunately, because I not wasted time here, but spent a lot of time here. I love this spot, guys. I love this spot. If you're ever in Socorro County, definitely come and give it a visit. Think about me when you're here. Ugh. Jump. Ugh. Anyways, that's it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Big shout out to my channel members at the cowboy level. I really appreciate everything they do for the channel. If you want to become a channel member and support me directly, there's a link down below where you can join up. As for the rest of you hooligans, if you enjoyed the video, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.